Hello and welcome to Ditching Hourly. I'm Jonathan Stark. Today I've got an audio excerpt from an answer I provided on my YouTube channel. You can check it out at thejonathanstarkshow.com and it'll redirect you to YouTube if you're into watching videos. Otherwise, you can just listen to the audio here on the podcast. Enjoy. Hey, Jonathan here. I've got a question from James who he sent me sort of a long message. I'm just going to summarize it. Basically, he had a sales interview with a prospect, and they determined together that the project outcome was worth approximately £80,000 in opportunity for the customer. So James suggested 3 tiers of pricing, which is what I recommend everyone does in their project proposals. Option 1 was £4,000, so 5% of the 80K. And option 2 was £8,000, which was 10% of the 80K. And then option 3 was £12,000, which was 15% of the 80K. And then he says, the client couldn't shake my hand quick enough for option 3, which, as you say, should always be the blue sky offer. Or maybe because he openly admitted to being wealthy, 12K just wasn't that much of a big deal to him. So then James asks, maybe I should have suggested option 1, 10% of year 1, option 2, 10% of year 5, and option 3, 10% of year 10. So my Jonathan question is, when value pricing, do you measure the value to a specific date? If not, is there a good guide to measure value? Okay, so the thing that James is wrestling with here is how to graduate the pricing, what curve to use to increase the pricing across the 3 options. And here's what I do. First of all, the specific answer to his question is, I'm only thinking about the value that will be derived from the client or what it's worth to the client for the first year. After that, who knows what's going to happen after that. I'll just say, to myself, or when I'm talking to them in the why conversation, I'm thinking about the first year. So, so client, what would this do for what if we hit a home run? What does year 1 look like after we launch this? What's the first year after this goes live, or that I finish this or deliver this, or we finish this project? What does the first year after that look like? What would a home run look like? What would be your dream numbers at the end of the year? However you want to ask that question. But I'm not thinking 10 years out or 5 years out. So the next obvious question is, well, how do you pick the 3 prices? And the way I would do that is I would say I use 2 different pricing curves. I recommend 2 different pricing curves, basically. One, my preferred pricing is what I call Goldilocks pricing. And another one, which is useful in specific situations where you really, really want to get the job and you want to leave the least amount of money on the table, is called might as well pricing. So I'll talk about those real quick. So let's say I'm going to use $100,000 in value. So you talk to the client, they say I'd be $100,000. You get the feeling maybe they tell you, or you just get the feeling that it's worth about $100,000 to them in the first year alone. Okay, so I'm going to start. Option 1 is going to be 10% of what I'm pretty sure it's worth to the client. So that's a very small percentage considering. And then I'll set option 2 at 2.2% of the overall. Sorry, I keep saying this wrong. Option 1 is going to be, say, $10,000. Option 2 is going to be 2.2 times that, so almost a little bit more than double option 1. So in this case, it'd be $22,000. And then option 3 would be 5x option 1, so it'd be $50,000. So the percentages would be 10% of the value, 22% of the value, and 50% of the value. And what this does is it makes option 3 significantly higher than 2 or 1, which is going to drive them to the middle option, the Goldilocks price, the middle one. This one's just right. And but really, any one that they pick is going to be fine for you, because once you set your prices, then you reverse engineer what you're going to do for each price. So if I had $10,000 to help this client move this needle, what would I do? Well, I could do these things, and it's not going to get them all the way there, but it'll definitely move the needle, and I'd be happy to do it for 10 grand. So that becomes your option 1, and then you do the same thing with the other 2 prices. What could I do for $22,000 to really help this client achieve this objective or this business outcome? And then you come up with some scope to do that. And the same thing at $50,000. So with the Goldilocks pricing curve, I based the price for option 1 at 10% of what I think the project is worth, and then I multiply for the other 2 options by 2.2 and then by 5, sometimes even 10, depending, but usually 5 for option 3. And then quickly, I mentioned might as well pricing. So I'll just talk about that real fast. If you really want to land the project, you're really nervous about giving them sticker shock or overpricing it or something like that, you can use might as well pricing, where option 1 would still be 10% of the value. Option 2 is 1.5. So, 50% again, higher than option 1. So if option 1 is 10,000, option 2 would be 15,000. And then option 3 would be 17,500. So they're only going up a little bit. And in fact, the curve is sort of maxing out. And what the effect that has is that the client will be like, well, if we're going to spend 10,000, we might as well spend 15. And then, geez, if we're going to spend 15, we might as well spend 17.5. So it drives them to option 3. And, if you're new at having a value conversation and you're really not sure about the value and you really want to land the project, might as well pricing is the safer one, where the Goldilocks pricing is a little bit more swinging for the fences and, more likely that they're going to pick option 2. Last thing on this I'm going to say is that if they picked option 3 immediately, then you can raise your prices. Obviously not in this case, but in the future. So if you came across a similar client in a similar situation, you could probably charge more, because with that kind of a curve, well, your curve wasn't that steep. Yeah. So if it's too bad we can't A/B this. It would be nice to know what would have happened if your option 3 was 20,000 pounds, which would be 5x of your option 1. I wonder if we still would have jumped at it. Anyway, if you are using this Goldilocks pricing curve and people are consistently picking option 3, your prices are too low. They should more often be picking option 2, and option 3 is they should only be picking once in a while. If they're picking it all the time, you can definitely raise your prices. Okay, that's enough for now. I'm Jonathan Stark. If you have a question for me, you can hashtag AskJonathan on LinkedIn, Twitter, or YouTube, and we'll add it to the queue and I'll answer as soon as I can. Bye. Would you like to learn how to get paid what you're worth? How about selling your expertise and not your labor? We work through all of this together in the pricing seminar. Pre-registration starts soon, and you can sign up to be among the first to know when early bird pricing is announced at thepricingseminar.com. That URL again is thepricingseminar.com. Hope to see you there.